In our special broadcast of The Business of Dying this morning, we look at the state of mortuaries. Bodies are rotting, identities are lost, and families are left in agony as Gauteng's mortuaries undergo a crisis. Millions have been spent on reforms that never materialize, and government is dodging accountability. Let's talk now to Madeleine Hicklin, who's the DA spokesperson for health in Gauteng, on whistleblower claims, failed oversight, and what it will take to bring dignity back to the dead and justice to the living. Madeleine, good morning. Thank you for being with us today. I want to start with the whistleblower reports that you have heard, because this really is about the human face and how this affects everyone concerned. There's a shocking picture that's being painted. Blood-slicked floors, clogged drains, rats even feeding on decomposing bodies in Gauteng's mortuaries. What specific action are you as the DA taking to protect whistleblowers, but also to verify these allegations independently, given, of course, you're being denied entry to places like the Hillbrow mortuary?
You know, Iman, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. It's very difficult to verify information when you are denied access into the very place where families claim to have seen bodies being eaten away by rats, and the authorities not allowing you into the facilities. It makes my life as the DA spokesperson on health very, very difficult. But when you are denied access, it speaks volumes, because they're obviously trying to hide more than they are allowing you to see. If they have nothing to hide, then it's easy. They would say, come in with the greatest of pleasure. We are trying very hard right now in the Rules Committee in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature to ensure that unannounced oversights are allowed, whether you come in as a committee or whether you come in as a member of the Provincial Legislature on your own, because that is the means by which you can hold the executive to account.
As it stands, you're not allowed unannounced oversight visits?
Absolutely not.
What would be the point of oversight if people know you're coming?
100%, my point exactly.
So you've exposed through this process delays, mix-ups, including families burying the wrong people.
Sure.
In one instance, there was a horrific case of a woman who had to wait 2 years to lay her loved one to rest, and in that case, you needed DNA from dental records to be able to confirm the person's identity, because the body was so badly decomposed. What then, given this backdrop, are the legal or legislative tools that you as the DA have to hold both the provincial and municipal governments accountable for what is tantamount to a gross dereliction of duty?
What we have called for, in 2012-2013, the then MEC of Economic Development, Gauteng Mhlangu, spent 3 million rand of taxpayers' money developing the Funeral Undertakers Bill and the Funeral Reform Bill. And I want sight of those bills, because that will tell me how much work has actually been done to regulate this industry. None of that information has been forthcoming. To the extent that I have had to do a PIA application to try and get the information, that has now been asked, we've been asked for an extension. I am now, as a member of the DA and the DA health spokesperson, bringing a motion before the Gauteng Provincial Legislature demanding a debate to actually see this legislation, or alternatively, ask for legislation to be implemented. I am currently writing a position paper on the reforms that are necessary so that we can actually have a regulated industry that becomes law.
Madeleine, it's so concerning what you're saying. The denials of access, as you've said, to places to be able to conduct oversight, not being able to do spontaneous oversight, but also not being able to see the fruit of, what was the amount? 3 million rand that was spent to really firm up regulation of the industry, and there's no proof of anything as a fruit of that.
I have absolutely nothing after asking questions in the House, asking in writing, demanding it via a PIA application, having the PIA application being said, we can't find the records, please give us an extension. I am now bringing a motion before the provincial legislature demanding a debate on the actual laws that they say they have, because I can't find it.
I want to say whose fault is this, but I will rephrase it and say whose responsibility is it to give you line of sight to those documents and to authorize permission to go to places that you need to go to conduct inspections?
Well, Economic Development said to me they don't have the documents. Health said to me it was Economic Development's problem because it was done under Economic Development. And I'm saying to you, it is a classic buck-passing exercise. Everybody is going around in circles, not wanting to take responsibility. And the DA is saying, we are a party who cares about citizens. We care about you in life, we care about you in death. And so we are going to demand either that you give us the documents that we are looking for, or we will force legislation to be promulgated that ensures that people have dignity both in life and in death.
I mean, it is a blame game that seems to be going on in terms of creating these reforms, in terms of also getting progress reports on money that's spent to commission pieces of legislation, like you said, the Gauteng Funeral Undertakers Bill and the Funeral Industry Reform Regulations. The MEC says that the responsibility lies with municipalities, and we've just talked now about the province spending millions on reform. So, you know, at whose feet does all of this lie? It seems as if there's a slippery game that's underway in terms of actual accountability.
There is a very slippery game. The problem actually remains that there are certain parameters of laws that reside within the local municipality space, but overseeing all of this are provincial and national laws that have to be adhered to. And you can't pick and choose who you're going to say, this is a local competence, this is a provincial competence, and this is a national competence. You can't pass the buck to circumvent taking responsibility, which is why I am saying we have to have one policy of laws that govern the funeral industry that is global, right across the country. Whether it applies to Gauteng, it must apply to KwaZulu-Natal, the Western Cape, right across the whole country. It must be a national law that deals with the funeral industry. It's totally unregulated. You have fly-by-night people running funeral parlours. You have mortuaries across the country that are not compliant with the occupational health and safety laws.
Are these all, I'm just asking directly, what you're relying on as a resource of authority? I mean, is this documented? Is there a body of evidence that we can put to various authorities who should be responsible to say, this is what's happening, what are you going to do about it?
I speak very much with the Funeral Industry Reform Association, and they are a repository of information. Johan Rousseau is the founder of FIRA, and FIRA has been mandated across the board for many, many years to please regulate the industry, the funeral parlour industry, the cremations industry, and the whole burial industry, because burial is a massive industry. South Africa is the 4th highest in the world in terms of the value of the funeral industry. And FIRA has been mandated by the public to please regulate this because it's unregulated. We have fly-by-nights that arrive. You have people setting up funeral parlours. I mean, the stories that came out of what was going on during COVID are enough to make hair that is straight curly and hair that is curly straight. There was an incident of a woman who was running a funeral parlour out of her house. And when people went in to look for their child who had died, she had the child in the fridge in her kitchen where she was cooking. I mean, that just image completely and utterly blows my mind.
In a word, you'd say this has reached a crisis?
Beyond a crisis.
So given that, and with the growing reports that you've reported, unauthorized cremations, mistaken burials, what you talked about now, biohazard violations, both in state and private-run funeral facilities, what can you do? Are you able to push for emergency legislation, all this oversight that you're saying you should be empowered to do, unannounced oversight visits. Are you able to do any of that before more families suffer irreparable harm?
I don't believe I am, and I don't believe anybody is, because I think we're being stymied and blocked at every opportunity. I mean, I am going to do an oversight in the next couple of weeks at the new Johannesburg Forensic Pathology Services laboratory that is supposed to be opening at Helen Joseph Hospital. It was started in 2014. It is still not open. The original budget was 588 million rand. 703 million rand has already been paid. In 2023, it was said to be 98% complete. We are now 2025, it is still not opened. But the problems with opening it are that it hasn't met municipal bylaws, and there are construction problems, and yet the building is 98% complete. I don't understand how that can be allowed to have happened.
Madeleine, you work in the Gauteng provincial legislature.
I do.
As an MPL, you would know best who we get around the table to short-circuit this debate and ensure that there is a resolution which empowers things like emergency oversight visits, which I think you've made a very good argument for, and also force, if not long-term legislation, at least emergency regulation to deal with the crises as you've described in the countries and in the province state mortuaries.
Well, the first person would be the MEC of Health. The second would be the HOD of Health. I would also then bring in the MEC of Infrastructure Development because of this forensic pathology site at Helen Joseph that is not complete, and then Economic Development. We have to get everybody around the table to turn around and say, this is the major problem. These are the concerns that we have, and why can we not actually resolve this?
Well, let's see if we can make that happen. Madeleine Hicklin is the DA spokesperson for health in the Gauteng provincial legislature. Thank you very much for talking to us this morning.